Good morning, everybody. Welcome. This is the morning meeting. Thank you for joining. Dan, Sean, and I are going to take you through the day. It's a big week. Election day tomorrow, tariffs in the Supreme Court on Wednesday. And of course, the shutdown continues. Convention and media has to build this up as the biggest week of all time. We'll see. Dan, how was your weekend?
Terrible.
For those of
Terrible.
you who don't follow Dan on social media, he made a valiant effort on his marathon run. But Dan, what are some life lessons that come out of your experience?
Oh man. There's many things in life you can kind of gut through, but a marathon when you've struggled with knee pain is not one of them. So very, very humbling. Very, very humbling. Made it to mile 17, and first time in my life I walked off. Which
And will you be getting back on the horse, or is that your last marathon?
I was told to 6 weeks shutting it down 3 weeks ago was the right play. I kind of tried to somewhat shut it down the last 3 weeks and thought it might be good enough and adrenaline could carry me through, but not so much.
All right, I'm going to look. I think you can run Buenos Aires in February.
Yeah.
I'm going to find a nice warm weather, but not too warm weather marathon.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
Sean, more positive news on the sporting.
Yeah, I'm hearing that, but good call in the chat. If you do glance over there, the CBD oil might be a good call. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, like double dose.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, big win here for the Patriots. It wasn't pretty, but we're number one in the league, and my son's team won one game all year, and then managed to make a strong run, pull out the championship game late last night. So.
Right here, just in a small sample set of two people, we have the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, all in one. And all of New England is on fire over the Patriots. All right, welcome in. I'll run.
It was a little too close. I'm not sure. Fire.
I will say, Mark, in the marathon, one of the fun things is all the signs. There were a lot of political signs about the mayoral race. Run like you're either being chased by ICE. Run like you're chasing immigrants. I mean, depending on your side of the aisle, the signs were on fire.
Yeah. And Mondami greeted runners. Just the finish line is right near my house. It's basically in my front yard. So I just enjoyed the festivities. And Dan, I was waiting there till midnight. Then I checked your Instagram and saw you coming.
The Clintons were there. Chelsea ran.
Has Chelsea run a marathon before?
Yeah, she has. She's run a few now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
A lot of buzz on President Clinton's nose, which I don't know why that's a big deal. The guy's wearing a Band-Aid, but
yeah, could have been anything. Could have been a cat. Thank you for being here. This is the two-way morning meeting. You're welcome to raise your hand if you're here on the platform and want to get in on the conversation. Tara's eager to go. Already has her hand up, but other people, please raise your hand. If you're watching on X or YouTube, we do not want you to raise your hand. We also, by the way, don't want you to put smack in the chat, even though it's an election week, and even though you might be, how do you pronounce that, a groiper? How do you pronounce that? Groiper.
What is that in reference to? Why did I just read that? What is that?
That's the followers of Fuentes.
That's it. That's it.
Oh,
Anyway,
I didn't know that there's actually, that's a name.
Oh yeah, it's in the story about.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for being here. I'll run through the daybook as I said, and then we'll want your questions and comments. We've a lot of interesting sound to play for you as well, so stay tuned for that. But first, a word from one of our sponsors. Last night, Dan's not the only one who didn't necessarily sleep well. If you are not 100% satisfied with the bedding that you use, maybe we recommend the good stuff from Cozy Earth. Their bedding is extremely comfortable, comes with a 100-day return policy, 10-year warranty, and you'll love it. It's the softest sheets I've ever slept on, and of course, you can also get the bubble cuddle blanket as well to throw right on top of the sheets. All the stuff from Cozy Earth comes right now with a 40% off possibility. Use the promo code MARK for 40% off. Black Friday has come early at Cozy Earth. Right now it's Black Friday, even though it's Monday. You can use my promo code MARK, our promo code, get on the site and sale everything site-wide. 40% off. The deals won't last, so start your holiday shopping today. And again, if you're in the market for presents, it's a great place to go. And the pants, if you give someone these Cozy Earth pants, you'll be considered Santa of the decade. So again, go to CozyEarth.com, use the promo code MARK for 40% off site-wide. All right, in the daybook, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States ain't doing much today that we know of, except tonight he's doing two teletown halls, one at 7 o'clock for the Virginia race and one at 7:30 tele-rally, not town halls, tele-rally, 7 and 7:30. Not campaigning in either state. We'll talk about that in a moment. Don't know what J.D. Vance is up to today. The House continues to be out. Speaker Johnson, his usual 10 a.m. press conference. The Senate is in, considering nominations and continuing to try to find a solution there on the shutdown. We'll hear that. Supreme Court's in this week. Again, the big arguments on Wednesday on two cases related to the president's emergency invocation to have tariffs. Today, they're hearing a case on supervised relief and whether it should be paused while individuals, has something to do with fugitives. I don't know what that case is about. Then another case of whether a service member state lawsuit against a government contractor can proceed. 2 p.m., the Dodgers victory parade, 2 p.m. Eastern time. On
Can I ask
Friday,
a quick question on that? If the Blue Jays had won, would they have been invited to the White House?
No.
Right. Okay. I just want to make sure that's I've never thought I thought of that. Whatever the ninth
I
inning.
believe it. Well, Canada
They
hasn't
won
won
back to
Stanley.
back in 91, 92. We'll have
Yeah.
to look that up.
Look it up, Michael. Look it
Yeah.
up. See if they went to the White House. I don't think they did. It's not the North American president; it's the American president.
That's right.
President on Friday is receiving the Syrian president at the White House. That's kind of a big deal. Jimmy Kimmel amongst his guests this week. Carol Burnett and David Duchovny and Stephen Colbert. Guests this week include two of Sean's favorites, Michelle Obama and Sydney Sweeney. Both will be on with Stephen Colbert this week.
They did, Mark, in 1992, George H.W. Bush invited the Blue Jays. They went in the winter in 1993. Yeah.
I mean, they do have American players, so it makes sense.
Bill Clinton had a scheduling conflict and did not do it in 93.
When was the last time a Canadian, thank you for that. When was the last time a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup? It's been like a ridiculous
I think it was
amount
the
of time.
Canadiens in 1990.
You can call them Les Abs if you wish.
Not the Maple Leafs, not the Flames or Canucks.
All right. Election day tomorrow, the marquee races, Virginia, New Jersey, New York City. Let's look at the polling in those states. New Jersey, 108, please. This is the Real Clear Politics average of a poll of polls. And as you can see, if you're watching, I'll read out for those of you listening on the podcast. Cheryl's average is up a little over 3 points over her Republican opponent. He does not lead in any single poll. Similar story in Virginia, 109, please. The Democrat Spanberger is up on average almost 9 points. So, but she leads in every published poll in the last few days. And New York City mayor's race. One poll over the weekend showed Mondami's lead at only 7, which of course would still be something of a landslide. But overall, he still leads by, on average, almost 15 points. Mondami campaigned very hard all weekend. We're going to look at that in a moment. But gentlemen, Sean, you first. If there was, assuming that the poll leaders, if you had to pick one race where the poll leader is upset in a surprise, which one of the three would you choose and why?
Jack Ciattarelli wins in New Jersey. Why? Because I think he's got the momentum going in his direction in the final days. They seem to have a pretty solid ground game, and Cheryl continues to be on her heels when it comes to like some of the bigger issues. She's not on offense. At best, she's treading water.
Dan, would you pick the same race or a different one for an upset if there is one?
Same race, and it would be, I think, because the minorities in the working class communities around New York City and Philadelphia don't turn out. And I think those who do may vote for the Republican, which would be a huge, red flag going forward. I also think if she loses, it's because the base is not motivated to turn out and the numbers are not what people had hoped.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys just said. Odds, Dan, that either there's an upset in either Virginia or New York?
And no, I think odds are 10%, 15%, probably for both.
Yeah, Sean.
All right, so I agree, but then the question becomes, what's the other takeaway? Because I think that, in my opinion, the next takeaway is that Cuomo comes closer than people thought.
Yeah. What would that mean? Like 5 points?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this idea of like a 15, 20-point win, and I could be wrong, but as I keep saying, the problem is that the data doesn't, I mean, there's no model for this. How do you model two Democrats running against each other in opposite positions, meaning that the crazy communist got the Democratic line and the scandal plagued traditional Democrat is the independent? So
I think the interesting thing in New York is, do Sliwa and Cuomo have a greater vote share than Mamdani? Because that would be interesting if more than half in New York did not vote for Mamdani.
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
What
don't
do
you
you
think that that's, I mean, I got to be honest, like that to me, you brought this up, but I mean, there's no poll that Mondami's getting 50%. Has there? I mean, there
there's
hasn't been.
one. I think that I think
but he's close,
Close.
and the polls may be undercounting his support because it may
Right.
not be the likely voter screens may be screening out first time voters for him. Let's talk about Mondami. You know, I always said about Barack Obama, part of why he was so impressive in 2006 and 7 and 8 was he could go on Meet the Press, Monday Night Football, and The Tonight Show and do extremely well. I think Mondami could do 2 of 3. He's not been very good in any tough interviews had, but in terms of sports and entertainment, the guy is just incredible. And I want to show you some things he did this weekend. And then the question I want to ask you is, what are the implications if this is how he governs as mayor, if he does this kind of stuff as mayor? So here he is at a Knicks game, sitting in the cheap seats,
The blue seats.
with his pals. Here he is, 106A, please, or 106B, I guess, 106B.
No problem.
Knicks. Let's go 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 Knicks.
All right, he's not the first mayoral candidate or mayor to show enthusiasm for New York sports teams, but he does it there with a certain elan, a certain comfort, a certain je ne sais quoi. Here's something you've never seen a New York City mayor do. Number 119, please.
مرحبا، أنا اسمي زهران ممداني وعم رشح حالي ليكون العمدة الجديد في مدينة نيويورك. بعرف شو عم تفكروا، شكلي كأني صهركم من الشام، بس العربي تبعي بده شوية شغل. مع هيك أنا حابب اليوم أطلب دعمكم يوم 4 نوفمبر. العيشة بنيويورك صارت غالية للكل. ازيك يا باشا؟ كل شيء تمام؟ وصار صعب نعيش فيها ونربي أولاد. أنا كعمدة رح جمد الإيجارات لأكثر من 2,000,000 شخص وخلي الباصات سريعة ومجانا وأضمن رعاية الأطفال شاملة لكل العائلات. ويمكن ما فيني أقنعك إنه الكنافة النابلسية بستانواي أطيب من نيوجيرسي، بس بوعدكم إني رح أشتغل بكل جهدي لأسهل عليكم بفتح مشاريعكم الصغيرة وتدفعوا إيجاركم وتبنوا مستقبلكم في مدينة نيويورك. التصويت المبكر مفتوح الآن حتى 2 نوفمبر ويوم الانتخابات يوم 4 نوفمبر. أنا منكم وإليكم سنراكم.
That was a good one. That was a good one. Yes.
سنراكم.
All right, for those of you listening on the podcast, amongst the scenes you missed, he's in a Arabic restaurant, Arabic supermarket, and petting an Arabic cat and calling the cat chief, which is, I think, a very Arabic thing to do, if I understand.
And I believe there was a Palestinian flag over his left shoulder in several of those images.
I believe that's
I don't
correct.
think it was an accident.
Again, which you don't see in other mayoral candidates. Finally, here's President Trump on 60 Minutes in his wide-ranging 60 Minutes interview with Norah O'Donnell, talking about how he feels about a Mondami victory. 115, please.
Zohran Mamdani, 34-year-old Democratic socialist. He's the front runner.
Communist, not socialist, communist. He's far worse than a socialist.
Some people have compared him to a left-wing version of you, charismatic, breaking the old rules. What do you think about that?
Well, I think I'm a much better looking person than him, right?
But what if Mamdani becomes mayor?
It's going to be hard for me as the president to give a lot of money to New York because if you have a communist running New York, all you're doing is wasting the money you're sending there. So I don't know that he's won, and I'm not a fan of Cuomo one way or the other, but if it's going to be between a bad Democrat and a communist, I'm going to pick the bad Democrat all the time, to be honest with you.
Okay, so Dan, I'm just projecting forward here. Mondami wins. Let's say he wins decently, 10 points, whatever. And then he becomes mayor, and he continues to do stuff like this, the photo ops across the board, and continues to piss off the president. What will it be like? Will he be a dominant figure in the national news on a daily basis? I mean, Mayor Adams maybe once a month is a national figure. Rudy a little more. Bloomberg once a month. What do you envision that being like?
I think the question is, does he take his talents to govern, or does he take his talents to kind of, stay in the news, stay relevant? And it's very similar to Donald Trump, right? Trump loves to go to sporting events. Trump loves to do kind of political stunts that we're all talking about that either enrages you or you're like, I love it. I think you know, it was reported over the weekend. He's talked to Barack Obama. He talked to Bill Clinton. He's talked to other people all about how to govern. Like once you get in there, how do you staff an administration? How do you get things done? And I think the big question is if he takes all of this to, let's say, highlight raising taxes, right? Hochul's resisting it. The state legislature is resisting it. He's walking the streets. He's talking to people, trying to build support. Then, you know, he may be in the news because everyone's like, does this work? Can he get people behind him to get stuff done? If it's because ICE is coming and he wants to go at Trump, I don't think he's going to be very successful.
Sean, can he use the talents we just showed? And again, we could show 50 different videos he made over the weekend. He's just a super talented on-camera performer. Can he use that to advance his agenda, or that it's just a different thing?
Sure. I mean, look, I think there's two components that matter in this, and this is sort of a lesson for everyone trying to, you know, every election people say, like, how can I replicate that? You have to be, the candidate has to be like him, willing to do stuff, willing to show up. Like it's not just showing up. He looks, like him or hate him, whatever, he looks authentic. It's not staged. Like he actually looks like I'm having fun at a Knicks game, right? Not every candidate can pull that off. But I think the other thing that's not getting the attention is that team behind him to cut those videos. I guarantee you it's not
like the White House.
Huh?
It's like the White House, like the Trump team. They turn them around really fast.
The difference between when I led that team and now, there's a lot more young guys that are like, hey, what if we cut this up and do this? Like, this is the new game. And I guarantee you that the people behind his videos are from 22 to 26. Like this is like a different breed. They're not consultants sitting in a DC office trying to figure out what to do. And so there's a recipe of success. Now, to your question, I think certainly. I mean, look, if Colbert wasn't canceled, he'd probably be on Colbert every other week on The View. I mean, I can see him definitely getting and trying to be much more a voice in the national dialogue going forward.
And here's the thing, Mark, like Hochul needs him next year. She won't win if Mamdani and his voters turn their back on her. So now the thing becomes Jeffries, Schumer in 28 in a primary cannot go to war with Mamdani and probably win a primary. So he is a little bit of a kingmaker now because they are the beggar to him. Now, the question is, if he can't get anything done, traditionally like Obama, his coalition fell apart within 6 months. Yeah. It started because they were disappointed.
Short answer to this, and we'll move on to the shutdown. It doesn't look like Schumer's going to endorse. Maybe he will in the next day. But what's the difference between Schumer's politics and Jeffries, that Jeffries endorsed Mamdani and Schumer didn't?
I think both the donors and the Jewish community, they are his base.
Yeah.
Just couldn't go there.
But the thing that I thought was fascinating about Schumer, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I felt like once Mamdani had AOC wrapped in, it was like the endorsement's not going to do me any good. If AOC comes after me, Mamdani is going to be with her. So what am I getting out of this? Like I might as well stand firm and be the guy who didn't endorse him to try to build up some of that base, as opposed to getting, So I think Schumer at some point said it's not worth the squeeze.
All right. Shutdown. The Obamacare enrollment has started. The SNAP benefits are cut off, although the administration may find a way to turn them back on this week, which, of course, would be good for people, but bad probably for getting a settlement. Air traffic continues to be a problem, according to the Secretary of Transportation. Military is still being paid, but there's some potential of whether that gets cut off. So more reports now of fallout effects of the shutdown, which is Head Start offices, for instance, closing. Some people are saying that after the election, the Democrats will be more willing to settle. I don't see that. Polling over the weekend, slight tilt, at least towards saying the Republicans are being blamed more, but not so much so that Republicans are ready to give in. Democrats on the Sunday shows said, please, Mr. President, you need to step in here. Norah O'Donnell asked the president, well, what are you doing as president to solve the problem? And the president, at least based on what he said to Norah O'Donnell on 60 Minutes, not the least bit interested in backing down from the no negotiating position of Democrats have to open up the government, and then he'll talk about health care. Here is the president on 60 Minutes with Norah.
We are now approaching the longest shutdown in American history.
Democrats' fault.
Under your presidency, we're talking about more than 1 million federal workers who are not getting a paycheck, including our air traffic controllers. You see there's traffic snarls out at the airports now. Sure. This weekend, food aid for more than 42 million Americans is set to expire. What are you doing as president to end the shutdown?
All we're doing is we keep voting. I mean, the Republicans are voting almost unanimously to end it, and the Democrats keep voting against ending it. You know, they've never had this. This has happened like 18 times before. The Democrats always voted for an extension, always saying, give us an extension, we'll work it out. They've lost their way. They've become crazed lunatics. And all they have to do, Nora, is say, let's vote.
Lastly, so proud to be part of the two-way community and grateful to you all who have done stuff to help your fellow citizens and have reached out to tell us about it. One email, this from Natalie, fellow member of the community, 103B, sent me an email over the weekend. Hi, Mark. My name is Natalie Kerber. I live in Franklin, Tennessee, and I listen to Two-Way every single day. With all the talk of SNAP on last week's show, you all inspired me to host a neighborhood food drive, which will benefit a local food bank. I got my kids and a few neighborhood kids together, and we filled up the back of 3 SUVs in just 2 hours' time. It was truly amazing. Thank you for what you do. It's making a difference in the real lives of real people. And here is a spectacular picture of Natalie's and the kids, and you see the 2 SUVs filled with food for the local food bank. We continue to urge folks here to help out where you can, and particularly now that the benefits are cut off. Sean, at best guess, best estimate, there's talk of Senate talks for appropriators that somehow people think could lead to an end. But what's your best guess now of when and how it ends?
I mean, I think 15 to 21, as I've said before, I don't think anything's changed. But as we come up on that deadline where House Republicans will lose leverage by saying that they've passed a bill, once that's gone, you can't use that anymore. They have to come back to town. I think so. So we're in there. But Thanksgiving's that backstop still, in my mind.
Dan?
Yeah, I agree. To all the House and Senate Democratic leadership staff who watch our show and told me they feel very good. They were saying before, like their conversations were happening. They think they're winning the PR battle now. Their poll after poll shows that Republicans and Trump are being blamed, and they think that the pressure is on him, not them. And maybe Thanksgiving.
But can I just, to Dan's point on this, I've said this over and over again. I brought it up with guests on my show. I will say that Democrats are right in the sense that the Republicans, this PR campaign by the Republicans has been pathetic, with the exception of Speaker Johnson, who holds a 10 a.m. press conference every day. Back when I was on the Hill, we'd be out on the steps, we'd be going to places and having rallies with, people affected by this. Is like the Senate is probably should go down in textbooks as the worst PR effort ever. They have a vote at like 3:00 and then all head off to the spa. It's pathetic. And if I were a member of the Senate Republican Conference, I would demand new leadership.
I also think Trump doesn't look good. He's doing everything else but this. He's Israel and his overseas trip. We all talked about how kind of stunning it was that it's like he acts like there's nothing going on. Like, you guys deal with this. I'm running the world. Democrats think he is starting to pay. It is, if you test Trump, the GOP and Dems, Trump is not looking good. And I thought even watching 60 Minutes, he looked irritated, right? And they think they're getting under his skin.
Yeah.
He looked irritated because he was sitting down with CBS.
Which he chose to do.
Which honestly, I was like, hey, you do remember you won the lawsuit. Yeah. I mean, seriously, I can't believe we keep rewarding bad behavior on the.
But I think he thinks he's rewarding good behavior now for the Ellisons and Barry.
I get it. Right.
I had communication, one conversation, one text exchange with a Trump political advisor and a Democrat who's running for a statewide office in an important state in a contested primary, and they sounded identical. The other side's losing. We're winning. It's unfortunate that people are being hurt, but look at the polls. We're great. This is going to, the other side's going to eventually have to give in. It was quite something how similar they sounded. And obviously, that makes it an irreconcilable situation. We'll keep watching that. A bunch of polls out over the weekend, including ABC, Washington Post, NBC, and CBS. Guys, anything forward-looking you want to say about those polls? One thing that got a lot of attention was the NBC has the generic House question at 10 points, the biggest it's been in a long time. It's a bit of an outlier. We'll see if there's others like there. But Dan, anything in any of the polls you want to highlight in a forward-looking way?
Similar to what I just said, the Democrats feel that the Trump fatigue, the frustration with Trump amongst independent voters is taking hold. And this is why they think that come next year, they need to have some forward-looking agenda, but they think that Trump's getting too close to the sun and how he behaves, and they feel very bullish about next year.
So one cautionary tale about these midterm polls, they're acting as if it's a national election. Like the generic ballot would be this, at best we had 40 districts in play after redistricting efforts. I mean, maybe, what are we talking, 20 maybe tops? Point is that having a national midterm poll is somewhat irrelevant. Like you're talking about 20 districts that'll determine who controls the House. And so there is a bit of misleading people about how the playing field is at any given state right now.
I think that the problem for Republicans is Democrats are firmly united and independents are running 2-1 against the president. And it is the fact that he is in the attention economy. He is everywhere all the time, front foot.
Yeah.
And you just ask yourself, is that going to wear well over time?
Either of you want to say anything forward-looking about the 60 Minutes interview, which was the classic wide-ranging interview? Nora covered about 40 topics. CBS is leading with what the comments we played about the shutdown. So no massive news in it, but either of you want to highlight anything from the interview?
Well, I think that's the highlight, Mark. You have an hour and 13-minute interview that they condensed down to 27, which is, I'll push that aside for a second, but that you can speak to the president of the United States at a moment like this for 113 minutes and get no real news out of it. I think that's the news.
Dan?
Boy, I actually disagree. I think that one thing that struck me, because he keeps doing this, is Trump is beginning to sound a little like Joe Biden when it comes to inflation, which is he's dismissive of it. No. It doesn't exist in the grocery stores. It's all coming down. Everything's going to be great. You look at his numbers on the economy and inflation, they're terrible. Voters don't feel that way. Now, maybe in the next 6 months, it turns around and all is well. But Trump doesn't do I feel your pain well. And Biden couldn't do it. He was a stubborn guy who refused to admit, boy, Trump's is getting near a danger zone. You can't keep telling working class voters that health insurance is all illegals. Inflation doesn't exist, and it's the golden age.
Yeah. Let's get hands up if you want to get in the conversation. Lots of new folks already raised their hands, so we want to get to you in just a moment. But
and
please.
By the way, Mark, can I just add one thing? Because someone just
Yeah.
Don't think Democrats aren't going to ask in debates next year Republican candidates. You agree with the president? Inflation doesn't exist and all is well, and they're going to squirm like a pig in fire.
I don't think. First of all, I mean, he admitted that there was a problem with beef. It's not that he doesn't.
No, only beef. Everything else he said is coming down. There is no inflation. That's what he kept saying. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I think gas is down. I mean, there's a lot when you actually look at stuff that people touch and feel, gas, eggs, things like that. He isn't wrong on that. There are some areas that have to be addressed, and obviously in the healthcare thing, it's not his fault that Democrats put a system in place that's failing.
Until falafel balls in my neighborhood are below $2.50 a falafel ball, I will consider inflation to be a dangerous problem for the country. All right, we'll talk about tariffs on Wednesday. One more topic. Over the weekend at the Republican Jewish Coalition meeting, you saw a parade of Republican officials and strategists denouncing Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and what they say is a dangerous growth of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment within the party. Fuentes is not backing down. He's on social media attacking Ted Cruz and others. Sean, and the Heritage Foundation had personnel changes over this. Well, let me ask this. A number of things I want to ask you about it, but I'll start this way. Why is this issue, this moment, causing people, Ted Cruz and others, to put a line in the sand and say this is unacceptable? What are they particularly feeling threatened by? Is it because Tucker's so close to the president and the vice president? Why is this a time when they're really speaking out in a way we haven't seen very much over the last 7 years?
I think that's actually a great question because I haven't figured out is it that, I mean, Nick Fuentes is very clear about his positions.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's new. That Tucker platformed him, I don't know. I mean, I kind of was trying to figure out, suddenly it was almost like there's some degree to which I feel like it's manufactured. I mean, not
Yeah.
that, but it's like, why was Tucker suddenly the straw that broke the camel's back? I
That's
don't
what
know.
that's what I can't figure out. I mean, like, remember the president had dinner with Nick Fuentes. Like, he's been platformed. President said it was by accident, kind of.
By accident, right?
Yeah, Dan, how big a deal do you think this is going forward? Is this just like some short-term venting? And again, can you solve the problem Sean and I can't, which is why is this moment causing such lines to be drawn?
I think it's because they worry about JD Vance. Like, I've warned about this for months. Young Republicans aren't kosher, no pun intended here, with the
But it's a good pun.
It's a good one. Isn't lockstep with Israel. And I think it's like they saw what happened in the Democratic Party, the way the snowball got going down the mountain, and it became hard to stop. And I think they fear that, I mean, again, if you're JD Vance and you're thinking about 2028, this is not a black and white issue. You have a restless
Another good pun,
base.
by the way.
Yeah. You have a restless part of your base. And how do you finesse this? Because somebody will come at JD Vance from the right. I mean, it's too easy and cheap to try. And this will be one of the issues, I think, that they will.
I just don't think that's, I mean, look, to me, maybe you're onto something, but that's a little bit deep for like, I think that there's a lot of, I just don't know that Israel, like, nothing to me is that new. I don't get, like, that's why I'm trying to figure out why Tucker was suddenly the one that broke.
What's new in the last 6 months is Trump kind of going all in on Israel, trying to solve the peace, now talking about rebuilding. Like, there's a lot of.
But Dan, I agree with you that that's distinctive. But for the people on the other side of Trump, for the Fuentes camp, this is just more of the same. I don't think they've escalated. What's escalated is people like Ted Cruz, and so what has caused them to suddenly say this? I mean, Tucker spoke at the convention. There's people get engaged with Fuentes, people get engaged with Candace Owens. Like, none of this is new, and yet suddenly we have a reaction that is unlike I've seen. I
think those previous engagements were all about 24, and it was all poking at the left. Now you're looking at your own party, and you're saying, like, what the subject is Israel a lot.
Yeah.
I just didn't think that would be the issue that would have.
I agree. I'll tell you, I don't have this thought through. As I prepared to ask the question and hopefully have an answer to join with you guys. I think Charlie's assassination has something to do with it. I'm not really. I think this is a theory. It's not based on anybody telling me this. I think Charlie's death leaves a vacuum, and I think people are trying to step into that. And I think Fuentes thinks he can step into it. He's a huge critic of Charlie's. And I think Tucker maybe thinks he could step into it. And then I think people like Ted Cruz. And again, I'm not saying they're doing it for power. It's just there's a space there to appeal to young men who are conservative and MAGA. And again, Charlie's death just left a vacuum.
I think some of it, Mark, speaking of Charlie Kirk, is the conspiracy theories that spun out during that on the right.
Oh yeah.
And like,
but again, that just made the right crazier. It doesn't explain whatever Ted Cruz is. I know it's not the right, but all right. In a moment, your questions. But reminder that this program is sponsored by our friends at Fairway and Green, whose products are available. Sean, what are you wearing today?
Well, Mark, I've got the just comfortable polo underneath, and then a little,
look at that.
Yeah,
look at that patch. Look at that patch.
Logo,
Morning Meeting logo right there. And I'm, of course, wearing this pinkish shirt. Normally don't wear pink, but I love this one.
You wear it.
Go to twoway.tv/fairway. And Sean, any discounts available?
Well, yes, Mark, there are. It's 20% off site-wide by using code TWOWAY20. That's two-way and the numeral 20. Site-wide, any of that merchandise that you enjoy with either the logos from Two-Way or the Morning Meeting, catchphrases on the sleeves, or catchphrase and logo-free site-wide.
Yeah, I don't care if you like miniature golf, regular golf, or you've never held a club in your life. These are the most comfortable golf apparel you'll ever wear. Go to twoway.tv.
I just think it's apparel.
Yeah, apparel. Go to twoway.tv/fairway. 20% off. Code is twoway20. All right. Lots of new folks. Raising your hand. Huh?
Your volume just went out for a little bit.
You muted yourself.
Yeah. You were talking, your lips were moving, but there
All
was
right.
nothing.
All right, Tara, welcome and thank you for being part of the two-way community. I like your map.
Yeah, what's
Love
the
to hear-
map, Tara?
We'd love to hear where you are, explain the map and what's on your mind.
It's a map of the United States. I'm actually in a suburb outside of Atlanta in
Well,
Roswell.
Tara, I hate to interrupt. We know it's the United States. What are the colors about?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. All right. Good
Abstract.
answer. Sorry, you said you're outside of what?
Atlanta.
Atlanta. All right. Well, welcome in. Thank you for being here.
I'm
What's
in
on your mind?
Roswell and love you guys. I'm a little nervous.
No reason to be nervous. Just imagine you be in the cab with Dan on the way back from the marathon and how you talk to him. Just that.
I love Dan, even though I'm a Clinton Democrat, which means I voted for Trump 3 times, but love.
Okay,
Love
obviously, of course. Yep.
Funny definition of Clinton Democrat.
Yeah,
but
I was
exactly.
gonna say, I'm sure he likes that.
Yeah.
But it's funny you brought this up about the Tucker thing because I've watched you guys from the beginning. This is the first time I have felt passionate enough to call in about something. Charlie Kirk's death hit me really hard. I didn't know him. I had a 27-year-old son that died of a fentanyl overdose, and some of it may have been that. But the fact that Tucker would not only have this guy on, but also then not push back on him, somebody that said he loves Stalin, he hates Charlie Kirk, he hates Erica, all the mean things he said, and then Tucker is just kind of agreeing with him, but yet he'll have on Ted Cruz and push back on him. So my question really was to Sean about, I don't think we should have a big tent party that includes people like Nick Fuentes. And then also, I feel like the Democrats, and Dan, if you could answer this, they became such a big tent party and let everybody in. Then they have, Zoran Mandani in New York. And so I'm very upset. I canceled my Tucker subscription. I just can't, like, the fact that this guy is so full of hatred, the things he said, Tucker didn't say anything back to him, and the things he said about Charlie is just unacceptable. Like, it's unacceptable. So if you guys could answer that.
Tara, thank you for that. And our heart breaks for you about your son. It's just tragic.
Thank you.
And
I'll
just
go
so
ahead and
sorry
mute.
you have to deal with that every day, I'm sure. Sean and then Dan.
Tara, I will give you a free subscription to the Sean Spicer Show. It is free, but I'm double downing on free. So, look, I haven't. Maybe I will go listen to it based on the conversation that we're having. I haven't heard the whole conversation. I will say this: there's a difference between a big tent, and I agree with you on that. I don't want anti-Semites, people who are racist or have vitriol or support violence or things like that in my tent. But I do think that that's different between allowing them to as I said the other day, I want to expose people for that reason. I actually think it's the opposite. If somebody has views that are abhorrent to some degree, you want everyone to know about it. Be like, this is what they believe. Like, when they actually get minimized is when you have a problem. So I am a big believer in more free speech. I don't think that means you allow them in your tent, so to speak. I don't want people like that, but I also want them. It doesn't mean that you give them a speaking role somewhere, but I also think that doesn't mean that you cancel them entirely so that people can't, because that's actually when you create problems. When you minimize that, if you think about what you talked about, Charlie, part of what he fostered was the idea of getting those ideas out, getting good, bad, letting people hear it all and going, wow, that person's a nut job or they're a horrible person. But when you actually cancel them, then you almost in a way help them because you push that underground and you don't allow that voice to be exposed for what it is.
Dan.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think part of the problem is Mark said before, like, Trump had dinner with Nick Fuentes. It was not an accident. I don't believe whatsoever. It was a dog whistle. That's what it was, right? Trump's very good at dog whistling, sometimes foghorns. But it is, Sean made the point, like, winning campaigns have to have big tents, and how you finesse that. Like, I want Mandani's energy. I want Bernie Sanders' energy and AOC's energy. And I also want, the business community to think that we're receptive, and we are receptive and we're willing to work with them. That's why it's really hard to hold coalitions together for more than 2 to election cycles, because at some point people say you need to deliver for me and you can't deliver for everybody at once. So it's hard, and that's when you get something new. Every couple of years you get these new iterations.
Can I just one other thing that's interesting to note, and I hate doing this, but I also feel it's fascinating. Nick Fuentes, I can't remember if we're having this conversation on or off air, but like I can't say I've spent any more time looking him up or than I mean I don't even want to compare it. Like I don't know much about the guy except for what I've heard and read, and that has inspired me not to spend a ton of time on that. But at the same time, you've got a guy that's about to be mayor of New York City that literally is hanging around with unindicted co-conspirators from 9/11 who has espoused socialist/communist views. And we're having a discussion about whether or not Tucker Carlson can have a podcast with a guy versus National Democrats and electing a guy who.
Well, they're not. New York City is.
Well, New York City is, but who have stood on, and I'm just like, there's a level to which, like, what are we doing? We're discussing whether Tucker Carlson had a dude on a podcast and didn't push back enough, and whether or not Hakeem Jeffries and others are endorsing a guy who literally stood with terrorists. And I'm going, there's a false equivalency.
You don't think Tucker's more powerful than the mayor of New York City?
I was just about to say that.
I mean, he is. I mean,
I'm from the Midwest, so I'm from Kansas City. I live outside of Atlanta. I would never, vote for anybody like that happens in New York City. So half of it, my kids are like, "You're just old." I'm like the commercial of "Don't be your parents" on the insurance commercial.
Tara, what caused you to go from being a Clinton Democrat to voting for Trump? What issues?
Well, when I listened to Clinton, I mean, the border, we need strong borders, but, abortion should be safe, rare, and legal. All of the things, that we need stricter crime. We can't have crime in the streets. I mean, just the stuff that Clinton was saying. And then I did vote for Obama. Then,
both times, or did you vote for him in 12 as well?
I didn't vote
Romney.
in 12. Yeah. I didn't like either one of them. But my son was a Bernie bro. And so him and his friends at Georgia Tech, I knew they were not going to vote for Hillary Clinton because they were all like, she stole it from Bernie. So I wasn't surprised Trump won. I mean, I kind of was, but, I just feel like that the parties have gotten too far on each side. And so I don't love Trump half the time. I don't listen to what he's saying. I turn it off because I hold my breath thinking, what stupid thing is he going to say now? But, it's just the policies have gone too much. Yeah. So if I had to pick one this time, it was going to be Trump. But I'm open to voting for a Democrat. I like my senators. I have nothing. My senators are fine. So
interesting.
They're both Democrats.
Yeah, Tara, thank you for coming on. As we saw, no reason for you to be nervous. You did great. We're great.
By the way, Ossoff's gotten some good poll numbers recently, which is interesting in the middle of the shutdown.
And fundraising.
Yeah, like he looks almost stronger today than at the start of the shutdown, which you would not have.
And the Republican field's a big mess. Sorry to interrupt, but yes, I agree with you. Rebecca, welcome in. Thank you for being part of Two Way. Tell folks where you are, what's on your mind for Sean and for Dan.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. Again, I'm from Michigan, so I'm calling in from Michigan. I had a question. Well, initially, whenever I got on, I had a question for you guys about Zoran Mandami, but then we started talking about Tucker, and I just wanted to weigh in on it. I do like Tucker. I do like to listen to him. However, there are some, the way he talks about certain things, I can get turned off by it.
Rebecca, I got to stop you just because your connection's not that great. So I just ask you to ask your question if you could, only because it's hard to hear you.
Yeah. So
there you go.
I guess, is that better?
It is so far. Go ahead.
Okay. So I guess my question. Well, I first I wanted to weigh in on the whole Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson thing, and that my opinion on that is I don't really understand. Well, one, I don't really understand the frustration and the outrage of why, he platformed Nick Fuentes. I'm not a Nick Fuentes fan. Some of the things that he said on the podcast are outrageous. Like, I mean, he said he was a fan of Stalin. Like, who says that? But at the same time, it's like, but if you know how Tucker Carlson is and like the people that he platforms, I mean, he will talk to anybody. So I don't think that a ton of people that do listen to him are thinking of him in that way. So yeah, I wanted to weigh in on that. And then also my question about Zoran Mandami is for you three, I don't know where you guys are, as far as where you guys live. I live in Michigan. It's not going to affect me directly, but it's, it looks like he's going to get elected. How is this going to affect the United States? I mean, I know that New York is the center capital city of the world, but like, what's going to happen to the rest of us? Like, is there going to be um, I mean, are things going to happen, I guess, in effect
Yeah.
of his election, or
Great,
is it
great,
just?
great
Yeah, go ahead.
question. Okay, so
Yeah.
first of all, one correction: New York is not the capital of the world; it's the capital of the galaxy. Capital of the galaxy. Dan, thoughts on spin out if Dami does win? How does it
Yeah,
affect
actually,
the United States?
Rebecca, I actually think it may impact Michigan because you have a Senate primary on the Democratic side that has three very distinct candidates, one of whom is very close to Bernie Sanders and is incredibly progressive. Some of his ideas, people would say, are not too dissimilar from Mandani because Mandani's are parochial to New York City and his are more kind of big picture. I think what it would do or will do is give energy to like-minded people. And so you will see candidates emerge for local and state and federal office that espouse similar viewpoints. And it will be tested. Is this popular? I mean, it's like Bernie Sanders, right? Is Bernie popular? He's popular with the base. Could Bernie have won a general election in Pennsylvania or West Virginia or Michigan against Donald Trump? I don't know. Like, there's a part of the Trump wing and the Bernie wing that are very, very close, right? I mean, Trump's taken equity stakes in companies.
Yeah.
Sean,
That would be socialism.
I think in Mandami, when there's two aspects, there's the practical and the political. The practical is, as Dan kind of said, I mean, like, it's one thing for Bernie Sanders or AOC or whomever, right? You're in a legislative branch, you're not really, but he will be the executive of New York. And so it's the practice of what he's talking about. If you talk about free buses, at some point he'll either do them or try to do them, and it'll either fall on its face. Well, it will. And so, like, in practice, it's. Well, I mean, Saturday Night Live, by the way, that they had a really
That was pretty epic.
skit, that I saw the opening cold open, and there was a point at which he sort of joked the guy playing Mandami and said, we'll figure out whether it works or it doesn't. We know it won't, and it was kind of funny to it, but when you're the executive, you can't hide the way you can in a legislative body. So I think that the practical is that we will see all this play out. And you won't be able to hide it anymore and say, well, it didn't. It's either he will do it and it'll work or it won't, which it won't, or he will fail trying to do it. And again, it's exposed. You can't hide anywhere. Two, just real quick, is politically, the Republican Party will make him the poster boy of every Democrat. Dan talked about like what Republicans will do or Democrats will do in a debate. Every Republican will say, is this your new leader?
Caleb, unmute if you would. Rebecca, thank you. Grateful to you. Caleb, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Sean and Dan.
Thank you for calling me in. I'm
Yes,
Caleb, calling from United Kingdom.
Yes,
Can
sir.
you?
We hear you well, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions, but I'll just go into the questions I have first. And Dan, I love you so much. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I like to think of myself as an independent. You said something um about Trump. I'm being nervous, so let me just speak up. You said something about Trump having dinner with Nick Fuentes. I don't think that's actually accurate what happened. I think Nick Fuentes actually gave a description of what happened. Trump had dinner with Kanye West, and Kanye brought Nick Fuentes. I think for the
Yeah.
reputation of this program, it's always good to actually put things in context.
Yeah, but I'll interrupt you. Yeah, we know what the story was, but if you're the president of the United States or former president, and somebody says, "I'm bringing a guest to dinner," the Secret Service looks into who your guest is.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
probably. I just wanted
they knew he was coming. They knew he was coming, and they chose to let him come.
yeah, that's fine.
And by the way, Trump didn't disavow a lot of what Nick, he just said, I didn't know he was right. So you get the benefit of like the people who hear that say, that's my guy.
Yeah.
And the people who would be offended are like, well, he didn't know. And that in politics is how you finesse things sometimes.
Yeah. Well, on Tucker and Fuentes, I think, in my own view, I think having this free speech is very, very important. Like letting people voice their opinion and then countering their opinion is more important than shutting them up. I think people get agitated when you don't allow them to talk. And maybe the New York mayoral race could have been different if Mamdani had actually been that exposed, if the Democrat actually been open to some of his ideas early on than late, and then things would have been different. But I wanted to ask something about the shutdown. Dan, you've talked about the president coming in, and my question is, who has the appropriations responsibility in the United States? Is it not the Congress? So why is Congress not getting themselves in order? Why does president have to come in when it comes to appropriations? Because I believe they are dealing with appropriations now. So we're talking about separations of power, and there is the responsibility of the president, and there's responsibility of judiciary, and there's responsibility of Congress. So why can't the United States Congress get their acts together and pass appropriations? Why must the president be held responsible? Why must the poll numbers create up because of something in which Congress is responsible for?
Boy, every president the last 30 years would probably say amen, because ultimately he has to sign it, and he is the head of the party that controls both chambers. So to say that he's not relevant, and I think Trump has shown all of us that he is very relevant when it comes to anything in government, even appropriations, he has been very involved in. So I think the feeling is ultimately you can cut a deal with John Thune, but it's got to be with Trump. Like Trump tells them what to do, not the other way around, as a rule. And so I think they want the big gorilla to get in the ring here.
Caleb, how did you find two-way?
I think I found two-way in June of 2024. I've been following you before the elections. I really love your analysis about the election. I've been following this since. So thank you, guys.
Okay.
Can I just one quick point of clarification on to Caleb's point that I think he made there are 12 appropriations bills. The House passed all 12, sent them to the Senate. The Senate needed 7 votes from Democrats. Schumer would not allow one to go through. So there are 12 appropriations bills sitting in the Senate ready to go that would fund each of the 12 areas of government. I think that there is a bigger fundamental problem with how the process is how we got to this point.
Well, the flip side is you work with the other party to do the appropriations bills, which is
sure
an old school way of doing things.
But if you talk to the appropriators, but Dan, if you talk to the appropriators, they actually believe that there are a few that are keyed up, ready to go. It's that Schumer won't give them the floor time. So there is an element to which, if the appropriators themselves are saying we're okay on the Dem side, then it is the leadership of the party.
They did not work with the Democrats as a rule. Go listen to Susan Collins. I mean, she's pulling her hair out.
Beth, welcome to Two-Way. Thank you for joining. Grateful to you. So tell folks where you are, what's on your mind.
I'm in Peoria, Illinois, and I just am responding to something that Dan said, and I love Dan. But you mentioned that Trump doesn't communicate how he feels. He doesn't do a good job of feeling people's pain, and I'm not sure how many in the community listen to Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, but Scott is at the end stage of pancreatic, 4-stage pancreatic metastasized cancer. And he's been doing his show now every day at 9 o'clock Central Time. I've watched him for 10 years every morning. And yesterday he had told all of us that he wasn't going to broadcast his show. He was going to the ER. And he posted on Twitter that he was going to personally reach out to Trump through X to get Trump to do something to help him get Kaiser Permanente in California to take some action because his needs were being delayed. And I wanted to let Mark know that your good friend, Patrick Soon-Shiong, has
Yeah,
also
it's also
gotten
helping.
involved.
Yep.
He
Fine.
got involved. Now this is Monday at, it's almost 10 o'clock my time. And no, that can't be right. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Pre-daylight savings.
Anyway, I'm but RFK Jr. got involved. Dr. Oz got involved. I don't know whether Scott's going to be alive today or not, but it's such a sad situation. And with everything Trump had going on, if I'd had time to research everything that his team is thinking about, I think sometimes characterizing him as someone that doesn't have a heart is unfair. And I personally had a chance to meet and talk to Trump before he announced he was running for office in 2015. And I got to tell you, he just changed my view completely. And I don't know. And I'm hoping that, Mark, I don't know if you're going to have Patrick on again, because I know you're interested in bringing awareness to the friction in the culture of cancer treatment, but it's just so sad for Scott. And we're all just heartbroken.
Yeah, thank you for that, Beth. And yeah, Patrick will be back. Dan.
Yeah, so Beth, I apologize. I think maybe you misunderstood what I was saying. I'm not saying Trump is heartless as a person on a map. I totally agree with you. He's got a huge heart and he's very attentive to a lot of things, culturally, politically, etc. I was speaking to the issue of inflation, where one of the things Trump likes to do is project we're winning and everything is under control, right? Because as a leader, strength is very important. And so what I think gave the analogy was Joe Biden, in his own way, did not want to admit inflation was a problem, right? He said it was just temporary. It was COVID, like everything's under control. It's fine. You should be grateful. We're better than the rest of the world, which was true. Trump's inability to kind of acknowledge inflation is still around. It is causing heartburn for millions of Americans who feel any price increase in their day-to-day life. To me, and you're seeing this in data, Trump is starting to sound tone deaf on inflation. But I agree with you. He's got a big heart, and it served him very well in politics.
Beth, thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
Thank you
Sean.
for that.
I would just tell you, Beth, I was texting with Scott this morning. I would, I obviously think our thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family as he deals with this. But I will say, just on a personal level, I've seen President Trump personally get involved in a lot of these one-on-one situations, and he will move heaven and earth for individuals in need.
Yeah. Beth, thank you. Grateful to you. Barbara, I'm going to give you the floor for 30 seconds because we're up against time.
No pressure, Barbara.
Did I lose Barbara? What happened?
Uh-oh.
What did I do there? I lost Barbara. I don't know. If you guys can find
By the way,
Barbara.
Dean, thank you for putting all those stats in the chat, just for everyone who's concerned about inflation.
Yeah, lost Barbara. All right. Sorry, Barbara. Come back tomorrow. Sean, what do you have tonight?
Tonight, we're going to break down the elections and the mood of the country with one of the president's pollsters, Jim McLaughlin. So you want the latest on New Jersey, Virginia, and in New York, too, obviously.
Okay. Dan, anything you want to report?
Just healing.
Just on the mend.
That's exactly it.
All right.
We got to send Dan a Theragun.
Meghan McCain at noon. Citizen
him.
McCain. Megan's guests are Mary Catherine Ham, but also the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, running for Governor of Virginia. Winsome Sears will join Megan at noon Eastern time here on Two-Way. Please join for that opportunity to ask questions of her. And then at 6 o'clock, I'll also be previewing election night with Republican strategist Matt Gorman, Democrat Steve Almendorf, two of the smartest people I know about politics. And then don't forget, tomorrow night at 8 Eastern time, our special election night coverage, unlike any other, with the New York Post. Our partners at the New York Post join us 8 o'clock to cover all the races. And again, it'll be like a normal two-way. We'll aggregate the coverage from all over the place. We'll also have you a big part of the program. So go to twoway.tv to register to be part of the program. You can also watch it stream live on YouTube at the New York Post channel, as well as ours, as well as on the websites. Please join us tomorrow for special election coverage, 8 o'clock Eastern time, here on Two-Way with our partners at the New York Post. Looking forward to that. I'll be joined by Lydia Moynihan and Ricky Schlott of Shot of the Post. So please join us for the coverage. Thank you for being part of Two Way. The three of us will be back on Election Day, 23 hours from now, to preview the whole thing again with more polling, more early vote data, et cetera, et cetera. We look
Has
forward
everybody
to
voted on
having
the
you back
panel?
then.
Have we all voted?
I'm doing it today.
Dan's doing it today. I'm a journalist, so I don't talk about it. Thank you for asking.
You actually do. You can say whether you voted.
No, I'm like Bob Woodward. I don't believe in it.
But it's
everybody should vote, but political reporters.
Oh, but so that's what I'm saying. You don't vote.
I don't vote. I just think if I'm
okay.
voting, I was once sitting with George Bush on the plane when he was running for president, and he was lobbying Alexandria Pelosi for her vote. And I just find it unseemly to be sitting in judgment of who you think is better while you're trying to be fair to everybody. So everybody should vote. I agree. Everybody should vote except for political reporters. That's it. Thank you all for watching. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow.